Keanu Reeves walked into a small neighborhood grocery store, blending in with the crowd in his usual casual attire, unaware that his visit would soon take a turn for the bizarre. When the young cashier, Emily, froze and refused to serve him, Keanu remained calm, his kindness shining through as the store manager rushed over in disbelief. What happened next would not only surprise Emily, but change her forever. Want to know how? Stay tuned, because tomorrow's story will reveal even more jaw-dropping moments, one that's filled with secrets and unexpected twists. Don't miss out, subscribe and join us for the next chapter. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind of day where the world felt like it had slowed down just enough for people to catch their breath. The sun was casting a golden glow over the streets, and the gentle hum of daily life seemed to lull the city into a peaceful rhythm. Keanu Reeves, dressed in his usual casual attire, jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a well-worn jacket, walked into a small local grocery store in a quiet neighborhood. He wasn't there for anything fancy, just to pick up a few essentials: bread, fruit, a bottle of water. He'd come to enjoy the anonymity of the moment, the ordinary, mundane experience of being a regular person in a world that often demanded more than he could give. No one in the store recognized him, and that was just the way he liked it. As he approached the checkout counter, a young cashier named Emily was scanning items for the customer ahead of him. She was new to the job, just starting out, and the small grocery store was a quiet enough place that she didn't expect anything to surprise her that day. But little did she know, her life was about to change in the most unexpected way. When the customer in front of Keanu finished paying, she looked up, and her eyes briefly met his. There was something about him, his calm demeanor, the slight smile on his face, the warmth that radiated from him, but she didn't think much of it. She had seen plenty of people in her short time working there, some more memorable than others, but nothing extraordinary. Until Keanu reached the counter. "Good afternoon," he said with a kind smile, placing his items on the conveyor belt. Emily, still getting the hang of things, wasn't sure what to do. She had heard about the famous actor Keanu Reeves, but had never actually seen him in person. Still, she didn't connect the dots right away, perhaps because she was so focused on the job at hand, or perhaps because he seemed so ordinary. The kind of guy you might bump into on the street without giving him a second glance. But then something inside her clicked. His eyes. His presence. The way he carried himself. She had seen that kind of gentleness before, on TV, in the interviews, in the movies. No way, she thought. Could it really be him? In an awkward moment of uncertainty, Emily's nerves got the better of her, and she froze. She hesitated, then said something she would regret later, her voice shaking a little. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm afraid I can't process your transaction today." Keanu looked at her, his smile never faltering, a little confused. "Oh? Why not?" I don't know. You look like someone I know, but it's just a policy. I can't serve you," she stammered, her face flushing with embarrassment, as she realized how absurd the words sounded coming out of her mouth. Her heart was racing. Why had she said that? Why had she put up this barrier, this invisible line that she had just drawn between herself and the man standing in front of her, who, despite being a well-known figure, was nothing more than a fellow human being wanting to buy groceries? Keanu stood there for a moment, his expression softening. He didn't get upset. He didn't raise his voice or make her feel small. Instead, he simply nodded. "It's okay," he said quietly, still smiling. "I understand." But Emily wasn't prepared for what happened next. The store manager, Tom, who had been stocking shelves nearby, heard the awkward exchange and rushed over to see what was going on. He had no idea what was happening at first, but the moment he caught sight of Keanu, his face went pale. His eyes widened in disbelief as he took in the familiar features of the man standing at the counter. "Wait a minute," Tom said, almost stumbling over his words. "Oh my God, you're Keanu Reeves?" Keanu nodded, the smile on his face still warm and kind, never showing any hint of frustration or annoyance. "Yes, I am." Tom's jaw dropped. He had been a fan of Keanu for years. Who wouldn't be? His humility, kindness, and down-to-earth demeanor had made him a legend, not just in Hollywood, but in the hearts of millions. Tom had always admired him, but never in a million years had he imagined meeting him in person, let alone in such an unexpected, down-to-earth way. He turned to Emily, his voice now stern but with an undercurrent of genuine concern. "Emily, do you know who this is? This is Keanu Reeves. He's one of the kindest, most respected actors out there." Emily, who had been paralyzed with embarrassment, now felt her face turn a deep shade of crimson. Her mind was spinning. She had just refused service to Keanu Reeves, one of the most beloved figures in entertainment, and there was no going back. She felt like a weight had been lifted from her chest, but there was still the overwhelming sting of embarrassment. As Tom began to fumble around, trying to figure out what to do next, Keanu leaned in slightly, making sure his words would only reach Emily's ears. "You don't need to be so hard on yourself." And in that quiet grocery store, with the sun casting long shadows across the aisles, Emily knew she would carry that lesson with her forever. Because sometimes the simplest moments can leave the deepest impressions. The days that followed that unforgettable encounter felt surreal for Emily. Each time she passed the same checkout counter, the memory of that moment replayed in her mind, almost as if it were a dream. She would catch herself staring off into space, recalling the soft, kind way Keanu had spoken to her, how he had made her feel seen, not as a cashier, but as a person. The weight of the moment lingered in her heart, a quiet reminder of the kindness that could exist in the world. It wasn't just the fact that she had met someone famous. It was the way Keanu had reacted, how, despite his stardom, he had been nothing but genuine, humble, and forgiving. Emily had seen celebrities on TV, heard stories of their egos and demanding behaviors, but Keanu was different. His presence wasn't about his fame, it was about the warmth he exuded, a warmth that made people feel like they mattered. Emily's coworkers noticed the shift in her. She was quieter than usual, but there was something more, something that made her look at the world through different eyes. It wasn't just the fame of the man she had met. It was the way he had carried himself with such grace, showing her that the smallest of gestures, acknowledging someone with a smile, being kind in the face of a mistake, could change everything. And somehow, that made her want to be better. One afternoon, as Emily was ringing up customers, she saw someone approaching the counter from the corner of her eye. She paused for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. She couldn't be sure, but there was something about the person's walk, something familiar, something warm. She looked up, and there he was again. Keanu Reeves stood before her, a soft smile on his face, as though the moment from before had never happened, as though there had been no awkwardness, no tension. It felt like it had all faded into the past, replaced by the same sense of calm that he had brought into the store the first time. This time, Emily wasn't frozen. She wasn't stumbling over her words. She knew exactly what to do. "Good afternoon, Mr. Reeves," she said, her voice steady and warm. "It's good to see you again." Keanu's smile grew even warmer, as though he appreciated the simple, human greeting. "Good afternoon, Emily," he replied. "How've you been?" The question caught her off guard. Of course, he couldn't possibly remember her beyond the moment they had shared, but there he was, asking after her well-being as if they were old friends. "I've been doing well," Emily said, feeling a flutter of gratitude in her chest. "And you? How's everything going?" "Everything's good," Keanu answered, his voice carrying the same genuine tone that made it impossible to feel like he was just another celebrity. "Just picking up a few things. You know, the usual." Emily laughed softly, the tension between them now gone. They talked for a few moments, sharing a light conversation about the weather and how busy the store had been lately. But even in the casualness of it all, Emily felt a shift. It wasn't just small talk, it was a connection. It was an understanding that kindness, respect, and genuine interest in another person's life didn't have to be rare. As Keanu made his purchase, Emily's thoughts began to drift. She couldn't help but feel that there was a reason why he had come back to the store. Maybe it wasn't just about groceries. Maybe, in some way, His return was a reminder to her that there were still good people in the world who didn't expect anything in return, who showed up, who treated others with humanity and grace. Before Keanu left, he turned back, meeting her eyes one last time. "Take care, Emily," he said, his smile full of sincerity. "And remember, don't be too hard on yourself. Life is full of moments to learn from. You've got this." Emily watched him walk out of the store, the doors swinging gently behind him. She stood there for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. She had always been hard on herself, worried about every mistake, every missed opportunity, every awkward situation. But Keanu's words were a balm to her soul. Don't be too hard on yourself. It wasn't just about her job or the mistakes she had made. It was a message for life itself. It was a reminder that everyone, no matter who they were or where they came from, deserved kindness and understanding, especially from themselves. From that day forward, Emily approached her work, and her life, with a new perspective. She made sure to offer people more than just a transaction at the counter. She offered them a moment of connection. She smiled more. She listened more. And every time she did, she thought of Keanu. Her shift didn't end with the store closing. It wasn't just about the customers or the checkout lines. It was about the way she began to see people as more than faces in a crowd. It was the understanding that, just like her, everyone was carrying their own burdens, their own stories, and that a little kindness could go a long way. As for the store, business was steady, and life carried on. But for Emily, something had shifted in her soul. The encounter with Keanu wasn't just an isolated event. It was a turning point, a moment that showed her the power of simplicity, the power of kindness, and the incredible impact one brief encounter could have on the course of a person's life. She carried his words with her, letting them echo in her heart each day. Life, she had come to realize, wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about the mistakes you made. It was about the grace with which you handled them, and the kindness you shared along the way. Days turned into weeks, and Emily found herself changing in ways she never anticipated. There was a quiet strength within her now, an internal shift that made her approach her life with more patience and understanding. Keanu's words, the simplicity of his kindness, had become a cornerstone of her daily existence. She no longer rushed through life with the sharp urgency that had once governed her actions. Instead, she savored each moment, connecting more deeply with the people she encountered, whether they were strangers at the store or friends she'd known for years. One particularly busy afternoon, when the line at the cashier counter stretched out the door, Emily's patience was tested in a way she hadn't expected. A frazzled mother stood before her, her hands full of groceries, trying to juggle a crying baby and a toddler tugging at her jacket. Emily could see the exhaustion in the woman's eyes, the strain of a long day weighing on her every movement. Without hesitation, Emily smiled softly at the woman, her heart swelling with empathy. She greeted the family kindly and asked, "How are you doing today?" The mother gave a tired smile, but her eyes betrayed the chaos of her day. "It's been a bit of a mess, honestly. But I'll survive." Emily looked down at the little boy, who was tugging on his mother's sleeve. She kneeled to his level and smiled, saying, "Hey there, buddy. You want to help me ring up these groceries?" The boy's eyes lit up, his small hands eager to help as he placed items on the conveyor belt. The mother let out a small laugh, a sigh of relief escaping her, as she watched Emily effortlessly navigate the situation. Emily's calmness was like a balm to the family's stress, a reminder that even in the middle of a chaotic moment, there was space for kindness, space for a little grace. As the transaction continued, Emily was struck by how often she had taken moments like these for granted. How often had she been in a hurry, frustrated, irritated by the pace of life? How often had she failed to see the humanity in the people who passed through her line? Keanu's influence had changed all of that. Now, every encounter was an opportunity to make someone feel seen, heard, and valued. When the woman paid for her groceries, she smiled warmly at Emily. "Thank you for being so patient with us," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Emily returned the smile, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "It's my pleasure. Take care, And don't forget to take a breath for yourself, too. The woman paused for a moment, her tired face softening. I will. Thank you again. As they walked away, Emily's heart swelled with a quiet pride. She had done more than just scan items, she had made a difference in someone's day. A small, seemingly insignificant moment had turned into something meaningful, and she knew it was because she had taken the time to truly see that mother, to truly understand what she was going through. It wasn't long before Emily's story started to ripple out to others, and her coworkers noticed the change too. They could see it in the way she carried herself, the way she handled even the most difficult customers with a calm assurance. She was no longer the quiet cashier who just did her job. She had become someone people gravitated toward, someone who exuded a kind of peaceful energy that seemed to brighten everyone's day. One afternoon, just as she was finishing up her shift, her manager, Mr. Collins, approached her with a smile. Hey, Emily, he said, his voice full of warmth. I've been hearing a lot of good things about you lately. Emily raised an eyebrow, unsure where this conversation was headed. Oh? Like what? People have been saying that you've really changed, he said, leaning against the counter. That you've made the store a more pleasant place to be. Customers, staff, everyone. There's something different about you lately. Emily's heart fluttered in her chest. She wasn't sure if she could explain it all, the way Keanu's kindness had woven its way into her soul and reshaped the way she approached the world. It wasn't just her attitude at work, it was the way she looked at life, with a gentler perspective. She had learned to see people, not just as faces in a crowd, but as individuals with stories, struggles, and dreams of their own. Mr. Collins smiled, his expression proud. Whatever it is, keep doing it. You're making a real difference. Later that week, after a long shift, Emily sat down on a bench outside the store, staring out at the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a soft, golden light across the sky. She thought about the path she had been on before, how she had often felt like something was missing, like she was just going through the motions of life. But now, everything was different. Every day felt like an opportunity to choose kindness, to choose patience, to choose understanding. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being human. And in that humanity, there was beauty. There was power. There was connection. Emily thought about Keanu, about how his brief visit had changed everything for her. She didn't know if she would ever see him again, but she didn't need to. His impact had been profound enough to stay with her, to shape the person she was becoming. And as she sat there, her heart full of quiet gratitude, Emily realized something. Life was about those small, fleeting moments, the ones that seemed insignificant at the time, but had the power to change you forever. All it took was one person, one interaction, one act of kindness to remind you what really mattered. And in that moment, Emily felt like she had finally found her place in the world. She wasn't just working a job anymore. She was living a life of purpose, a life grounded in the simple yet profound power of kindness. If this story touched your heart, we've got many more that will do the same. Click the screen to discover more tales of hope, compassion, and resilience that will inspire you.